Welcome to Time with Terry, coming to you from the Space Coast of sunny Florida. I'm Terry, a retired PT assistant who has worked with seniors my entire career. In this podcast, it is my mission to be a senior advocate to connect you with an amazing network of resources, because in Brevard County, we care about our seniors. Now, today we're going to be talking about a very heavy topic, but it's an essential topic to talk about. And so my trivia question for today is, how many suicides of military personnel, both active and veterans, are there in Florida per year? Now, the reason I'm talking about that is because I have a wonderful guest today, Henry Angulo.
Angulo.
Okay,
Yes,
Angulo,
ma'am.
okay. And he is here with the Firewatch organization. So, and this is not a hotline, but it is an organization that trains and educates to provide the community with training techniques.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Terry, for having me today. Thank you for providing this platform so we can have this important conversation today.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so first let's talk about you. Okay, you were born
Okay.
in New Jersey.
I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell us about
I'm
that.
a northern transplant.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was born in New Jersey, and at the age of 17, because I graduated high school when I was 16.
Oh.
At the age of 17, I decided to join the Marine Corps, and was off to boot camp, and did the next 4 years what the Marine Corps taught me to do. One of those was, deployment. Did some time in Japan, overseas. And then I was, end of my active duty time, I was an instructor in Paris Island, actually, with recruits for a little bit. I was a marksmanship instructor. And then after that, I joined the reserve and did 8 more years after that. So 12 years altogether, active and reserve time.
Nice.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go into the military?
Well, it was something that, for me, obviously growing up in New Jersey, 9/11 was pretty close to us. You know, it was right across the highway. I remember that day. I had some family members in Brooklyn, actually, which is right next to Manhattan, and they got gridlocked there, and we were kind of panicking that whole day. So I'm not going to take you back to that whole thing, but it was something that made an impact for me. And after the invasion happened in 2003, that's when my graduating year of high school. And it was something that I wanted to do. I spoke to my mother about it as soon as I got out of high school. But of course, like a concerned mother, she was like, "You're not going to go to war," which was what was happening. And she wanted me to go to school first. So I did for a few semesters. And after, less than a year, I said, it's time for me to go and kind of do something for my country. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, New Jersey. I mean, in parts of New Jersey, you could see the burning towers.
That whole for the, it was so much. That day, we were in school. There was lockdown. People went home. All of that. And like I said, we had family members in Brooklyn, and we couldn't contact. And there was a bunch of stuff happening. So it really stayed with us for a few days. We couldn't contact them. We didn't know what was going on. And then the week later, they were like, there was a list of people that had unfortunately passed away that day, and names were coming out and all of that. So I just remember being up, with my mom, all times of the night, just watching the news and waiting for calls and doing all this stuff. So
it was a sad time for the country.
Oh yeah, it
was a
was
very
for sure,
sad time.
for sure.
And then when you got out, you got through the GI Bill. You went to Florida Tech.
Yes. When I got out, decided to move to Brevard County. And originally I started at Brevard Community College, which was community college back then.
Right.
Now Eastern Florida.
Right.
They've upgraded a lot. And then I finished my AA there, and then I was able to transfer to Florida Tech, thanks to my GI Bill. So yeah, I went to school there.
Great. So, how did you get involved with the Firewatch organization?
So the Firewatch, being a veteran nonprofit, they were hiring veterans in their state, because they were looking to expand their program into places where the veteran population was growing, and they didn't really have the support that they kind of needed. So they were looking at South Florida being one of them, Central Florida being another one, and then the Tampa area being the third. The fire watch started in Northeast Florida in the Jacksonville area. So they were looking to expand into these other areas of Florida. And for me, I actually serendipitously, is that a word? Serendipitous, that I was actually a veteran advocate after I left school. I was working with 211 Brevard.
Okay. So you were on the hotline? Were you on
I
the
was,
okay.
yeah. They
Wow.
started a specific
Great.
veteran hotline.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
so specifically for veterans to speak with other veterans. And it wasn't only like a resource line. If you're familiar with 211, they do information and referrals.
Okay.
But this was also a talk line. So when veterans were feeling in crisis or suicide ideation, they can call us and we can speak to them. Because if you have a veteran in your life, veterans speak to other veterans, right? They kind of bond and they kind of know, and we can chit chat and understand a little bit better than speaking to someone that hasn't served or doesn't have that background. Same thing with like first responders and things like that. So the state gave 211 some funds to create this line, and I got lucky enough to be part of that line. And then when the Fire Watch was looking for potential individuals to join, what we're doing now, I was lucky enough again to kind of put my resume in there, and it got hired, and here I am 3 years later.
That's great, because as a civilian, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I have no idea what you guys went through when you were, especially like if you were in battle, if you were in Afghanistan or Iran or wherever it was. I can't identify with that. So that's wonderful. So like if they do call into the hotline and they are a veteran, so do they ask that? How does it get over to you because you are a veteran?
So with the 211 line, yeah, that was the whole purpose of the line. So they would call the 211, and then if they were a veteran, they would press like 2 or 3, whichever option it was, and then they would come over to our line.
Okay.
And then my team, which was composed of 3 other veterans, they would answer the line, and then they would help them out, whether they were looking for specific veteran resources or if they were just looking to talk to somebody. So they would connect them with the resources, follow up with them as well, because that's another important part, following up with someone. And even in the civilian world, if you have somebody that cares enough to call you back, that can make a difference when you're in a crisis moment,
Right.
Because I can say, here, Terry, call 211, and then never follow up with you or kind of, but if I call you 2 days later and I say, hey, Terry, how'd that number go? Did they provide you that help? But did you contact these people? Were they able to help you? And if you tell me, yeah, they were good, that makes a difference, right? Or the opposite, if you're like, no, they didn't help at all.
Yeah.
And then we can go to something else, right?
Right.
So that was our task as the team.
Well, that's good. So when they call in, they do ask if you are a veteran. So they do ask that when they call in. So good. So they can automatically put you into talking to somebody like you who is a veteran.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's that 211 line. I believe now they cover the whole state. So anybody that's, outside of Brevard, outside of the major areas can call 211 and hopefully get connected to that. It's called the My Florida Vet Line.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. Because the suicide rate is, I know, and one of the things that your organization does that helps to gather data, right, on the suicides and a lot of different statistics as to, a lot of things that we'll talk about. But so the suicide rate, like in 2023, because it takes a while to gather the information, is like around 17 a day are committing suicide.
Yes, yeah. So since we are a state program, right, we are partly funded by the Florida Department of VA. They provide us some funding so we can collect state data.
Okay.
So we have a kind of like a partnership with each Department of Health in each county in the state, and they provide us veteran suicide numbers for each county. So that's how we collect the data in the state.
Mm-hmm.
But then compared to the Department of Veterans Affairs, which is the National Department of Veterans Affairs, who collects the suicide number rates or count for all 50 states,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they collect all 50 states' information and then they put it out. So the national numbers are the ones that take 2 years to collect.
Okay.
So their report just came out for 2025,
Mm-hmm.
which has the 2023 data on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one that has 17 and a half veterans per day,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, dying from suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad. And the breakdown of like the highest rate in the demographics, which really shocked me, was a 65-year-old white males.
Yes,
That-
yes.
that totally
that has
shocked
been
me.
a consistent, unfortunately, higher count of suicide amongst just veterans in general. 65 plus white males are the consistent ones that have the highest count. Partly because there's more of them, right? From after World War II, Korea, Vietnam for sure. A lot of Vietnam veterans are hitting that age. And even now, Desert Storm, Desert Storm veterans and any combat actions in between, that they're hitting those 50, 55, 60 age, and they're getting there. So unfortunately, there's a higher count of them, which with a higher count comes a higher suicide rate as well.
Right. And then also they target the communities that have a higher rate.
Yes, that's our mission. So that's why we collect the data and we look at the numbers and we look at where there is a higher veteran population, because like I said, with a higher veteran population, unfortunately comes a higher suicide number as well. So those are the ones that we kind of want our program to take kind of grassroots in, know that we exist, and we try to train the organizations that are out there helping veterans, especially if they have a mental health track for veterans or first responders. If they provide homeless services for veterans, if they provide financial services for veterans, any of those organizations, in the different counties, those are the ones that we want to connect with and provide our training to them. Our training is only about 30 minutes online. It's about 45 minutes if I do it in person. And then we cover pretty much veteran culture. We cover what anyone can do to help, have a conversation with someone in crisis, and then lead them to a resource that can help. And then we go over the resources as well.
So you speak, like you're saying, there's an online course, or you can go to churches or different organizations and speak about this and like red flags and what we can do to help, to recognize the signs and the symptoms, and how we can help people who are in need.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
And that's what our training is, like recognizing the signs, right? And then if you recognize those signs, having that conversation, because like we were saying earlier, a lot of people may be nervous or not want to have a direct conversation when it comes to suicide or even mental health in general. I'm sure my generation, and I'm sure for your generation and your listeners, it's something that is either glanced over or not really spoken, because of how we grew up or our culture or, it's just, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
But through our training, we want to open up people's views to understand that if you have a conversation, no matter how uncomfortable or difficult it may be, you're better off having that conversation and getting that person to help rather than the latter, them dying from suicide, and then after the fact saying, oh, what could I have done? Or I'm looking at the signs or things like that, So having those difficult conversations make the difference.
Yeah, because I don't know if some people are like, oh, I don't want to insult them because, do you want to kill yourself? You're like, oh, when you say that, it's like, oh, well, that sounds terrible. Well, maybe they are. you know, and if they're not, it's okay. I mean, so
Exactly.
what? They'll get mad at you.
Exactly.
And they'll be fine.
Exactly.
But what if they are,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, and they know that you reached out to them,
Exactly.
then all the better.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, you know, and somebody had said to me, and I know we talked about this, that when somebody says they are thinking of taking their life, like, how are you going to do it? And so how are you going to take your life? And people are like, and I'm thinking, well, that's just a really weird question to ask, but it's something to ask.
No, for sure.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to, and that's something else we're going to go over in our training. You want to have that conversation and ask if they have a plan. Because if they do have a plan, then it's a more serious step, right? Then that means you need immediate action, right, to keep them safe. You may have to involve law enforcement. You may have to take them to the emergency room, like, you know, all these other options. But if they say, you know, I'm just having a thought, or I'm just having ideation because of the crisis that I'm going through right now, then there may be some other resources, right? You still want to stay with that person and talk to them. But then if they're a veteran, you might want to connect them to the VA. If the VA doesn't help, then you connect them to a mental health resource, right? If the resource doesn't help, then you call 988, right? 988 is the suicide prevention line. So they can talk to somebody. So what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to build within our network, the people that join our watch, is for them to understand that everybody plays a role when it comes to suicide prevention, right? And number one being that suicide is preventable. You know, a lot of people think, oh, they have the thought, right? If I talk to them, I'm going to put the thought in their mind. Well, they already have those thoughts.
Right.
All you're doing is, just like you're saying, opening up the conversation and having a talk with them, right? So that makes a difference, and that's what our training kind of does, right? We want to train and educate.
Well, would they be able to call you? Would they be able to call Firewatch if they did have? I mean, I know there's 988 and 211, but could they call your organization?
So
how
our
does-
mission is to provide training and education to organizations that provide frontline services, right, or deal with direct veteran contact. So for us, because there's only 6 of us, well, I think there's 8 of us now throughout the whole state, it's hard for us to kind of deal one-on-one. Not that we don't, because first off, I am a veteran, and second, I'm a veteran advocate, you know, for my veteran community, for sure. So if anybody ever reaches out to me in crisis or anything like that, I am there for them 100%. And I can tell you that everybody on my team is the same way. But we don't actually take like phone calls like that directly. It's not our main purpose. But we do provide the service, the resources that do. Right, like we were talking about earlier, 211, the My Florida Vet Line. They are call centers, right? They have the staff online to answer those phone calls and provide those resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, because you want to empower the community to intervene.
Exactly.
You know, to be an intervention to lead to prevention.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I like that. Empower the community to intervene to lead to prevention.
Yes.
Which is great. And I know, and that's why it's good, and it's just good that sometimes that person just needs one person to care.
Exactly.
Just one person. If somebody would have intervened, they would still be alive.
Exactly.
And as I was telling you, I was talking to a friend today, and I said, oh, you know, I have a really sensitive subject today that I'm interviewing, and it's suicide. And she said, well, when she was in college, she was dating this guy, and they had a group of friends, and they had this guy, I don't know his name, we'll say Tim. And, you know, and Tim was really having a lot of financial issues, and, you know, he's kind of depressed. And then all of a sudden he had this big party, and, you know, and everybody's like, should I bring something? No, I got it covered. It's fine. And, you know, they had beer and hot dogs, whatever it is, everything. And next day he committed suicide. Yeah. So, and everybody was like shocked, you know, and they're like, well, you know, so that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Is if somebody's really sad and they're depressed, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, I'm good. Everything's great. It's just like they have like resolved in their mind, okay, I feel good because I know I'm going to kill myself. And then they're at peace with that.
Exactly.
So huge red flag.
Yeah.
for people. Or like you were saying, if they're happy, the opposite is true too. If somebody is very happy and then all of a sudden they're sad, talk to them about it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You know, the worst that can happen is if you don't talk to them, then then they may kill themselves. But if you talk to them and starting the conversation, like you said, like what is the issue? Why do you feel like you want to do this? Is it finances? Is it because I can direct you?
Yeah, exactly.
You can guide them to say, okay, well, let's talk to somebody about your finances, or let's talk to somebody about whatever the issue is, and let's let's take care of this. No, don't do it.
Exactly.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
There's people out there who care.
Yeah, I've always and this kind of resonates with a lot of people, where suicide is a permanent answer to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to like you're saying, financial issues or mental health issues and things like that, there is tons of help out there, especially in the veteran realm. There's a lot of assistance out there for individuals. So what we do is we kind of give people the resources to have that conversation, because a lot of people do care. They want to have that conversation, but then they feel kind of stuck. They say, well, if my friend comes to me, like for example, let's say that friend that threw the party went to your friend and said something like, yes, I'm having suicide thoughts, and it's about my financial issues. Well, that friend, your friend, doesn't really know where to go from there, right? She might be like, okay, where do I go from here, right? So what we do is we kind of provide a guide that people can use to finish that conversation and say, all right, well, I understand you. I understand your issues. And now I see why you're feeling this way. Let's look at some resources that can help you. You know what? First off, let's look at those thoughts that you're having, right? Because that's the major issue right now. Once you either connect with a resource that can help or talk to somebody, then we'll look at your financial issues and then we'll go from there, kind of thing, right? So it's a guide that people can use to connect with that person that's going through the crisis, and then hopefully lead them to a better place, And like you're saying, you're better off having that difficult conversation and in that moment, than that person not being there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
if you're
that
uncomfortable, too bad. Too bad if you're like, like if you're, if the person's thinking about suicide and you're uncomfortable with it, well, be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
At least make the attempt to talk to them, because that might be the one thing that they need.
Exactly.
Is to have somebody care and say, and they may have wanted to talk about it, but maybe they're ashamed. Not that they should be, but maybe they're ashamed to say, I'm thinking about that.
Right.
So if you have somebody who cares and go, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You're just really at a bad point in your life, and you need friends.
Yeah.
This is making me cry. I'm sorry.
No, please. It's
this
very
is really
emotional,
upsetting
for
me
sure.
that there's
Yeah,
people
yeah.
out there that feel that that's their only choice.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that if people would just reach out, or there are places that they can go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Makes a big, huge difference. Like you're saying, if one person,
yeah.
kind of follows up with them or says, hey, how's your day going? Or has that open conversation, that makes a difference for people, you know? And like I said, our motto is suicide is preventable, but it's still one of the top 10 death causes in the United States. Unfortunately, we lose over 6,000 veterans to suicide in the country, every year. This year, it was around 6,400.
Wow.
And Florida accounts for 10% of that,
Yeah.
with it being close to 600.
Yeah.
And out of the 50 states, for our state of Florida to account for 10% of the veteran suicide numbers, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we have 24,300,000 people, but, and they're like, oh, it's a low percentage. I don't care what the percentage is.
No,
that's 600 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. There's, last stat I had was there was 1.4 million registered veterans in the state of Florida. And I say registered because some veterans don't register. Some service members may have served, but they don't put it on their IDs, or they don't, put it out there, kind of thing, right?
Wow.
So from the ones that are registered and we know of, there's 1.4. And out of those 1.4, we had 600 die from suicide.
Wow.
There's usually an average about 30 veterans that die from suicide in the state, in our county, in Brevard County alone.
And for per year.
Per year.
30 per year.
30
yeah.
per year, yeah, exactly. So that's over 2 per month.
Right.
You know, we're only being second to Hillsborough County. So in the Tampa Bay area, they have a higher suicide number when it comes to veterans. So with Brevard County having, you know, Patrick's Space Force base now. Yeah, Space Force base now. You know, and a lot of veterans do retire here. You know, they live here, they retire here, buy homes here, you know, boost our economy and all of that. So for us to have 30 plus every year die from suicide, that takes a toll.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, because you were saying, like, you know, more people are moving to Florida, and the highest population of, is it the veterans? It's Tampa.
Tampa
Okay.
has a
Tampa, Jacksonville.
high, yeah. Tampa, then Jacksonville has a high number of veterans as well. Here in Brevard, and then Palm Beach also has a higher number of veterans that reside in that county.
Okay. Okay. But like we were talking about, you know, some of the red flags. Are there some other things that, I mean, I just know that, you know, when they're sad and then they're happy and vice versa. Or I guess if you just notice, are they out of character? I mean, what are some other?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So signs that
Yeah.
we kind of go over, substance abuse. You know, if their alcohol or drug use kind of goes up, for sure. If they're quick to anger, you know, if they're usually a calm person and everything is just irritating them, you can't have a conversation, that means there's something else going on underneath, right? And the same thing if they're depressed. You know, if they're usually a person that creates conversation or likes to mingle, and all of a sudden they're recluse or they don't talk to anybody, then, you know, that's a sign. Reclusiveness as well, you know, kind of just staying in their room, no contact. You call this person a few times and they don't answer. So that's another sign. So things like that, for sure. One that stands out amongst like veterans and first responders is dangerous behavior. So if all of a sudden, you know, they buy a sports car, or they're not motorcycle people, but they buy a motorcycle, you know, they kind of put themselves in dangerous positions or dangerous spots, or if they are kind of aggressive in any way, right? So that those are kind of signs that there's something else going on underneath that you want to, you know, kind of address or have a conversation about.
Okay. And I know that being out of character, I know that's the one thing. If somebody's like, because I know that, you know, some of the one lady that I work with, and somebody said something real nasty or whatever, and she said that's just, I mean, the person wasn't suicidal, but just the fact that she said, well, that's out of character for them. Something must be going on,
Yeah,
you
there you
know,
go.
for her to,
That's
you
a
know,
good
for her to
notice.
act like that. And I was like, yeah, I said that's a good term. If it's
Yeah.
out of character, then, you know, maybe something's wrong, or maybe they're just upset. Maybe there's, you know, you don't know what's going on inside of other people's hearts in their lives sometimes. So sometimes
Exactly.
you just have to say, hey, I noticed lately you've been a little edgy. You know, like what's going on? You know, can I do something, or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Or yeah, it's good.
So, and in our program, everybody that joins our program, we give them a couple of keepsakes. And one of those keepsakes is a little plastic card. And I thought I had one, but I don't. And in that plastic card, the 911 is on there, 211, and then the My Florida Vet number is on there as well. 988 is on there. So, like you're saying, people do have upset moments, right? People do have these moments where they might just be upset and not want to talk to anybody. So the card is supposed to play a role to where it's a leave behind, right? So let's say you encounter somebody that is, and you're worried about them, you can leave this card with them and say, hey, when you're ready, reach out to one of these numbers and have a conversation, you know? So if you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to talk to your supports, you can talk to one of these numbers and get some resources. So that's the thing that we provide all of our watch standers, you know, people that join our program. Whether you take it online, whether you take it in person, you know, anybody that takes our training gets one of those cards.
So that if they do talk to them and the person's just not ready to talk, you just like, okay, well, when you're ready,
Yes.
you know,
Reach out to
here's-
these people.
yeah,
exactly.
okay,
Reach
yeah.
out to one
or
of these
call
resources.
me, or I'm sure the person will have their number on.
Yeah,
You know, you can
exactly.
call me. If not, there's other resources out there
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So what was the Florida Veterans? What is
The My Florida Vet program, which is the hotline specifically for veterans that they can call.
Okay.
Yeah, but usually they're attached to 211, so you can call 211
okay?
and then get direct to the veteran line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Well, and another thing, like about the if when people do, when they do take their life, it's the people that are left behind. They just feel guilty. I mean, it just they feel so. I remember one time I was really depressed because I dated this guy, and we broke up, and I thought my world was ending, and I'd never love again. All that crap when you're young.
Yeah.
That's
That's actually one of the biggest reasons why people,
Yeah.
unfortunately die from suicide, believe it or not. Yeah.
No, I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I know your heart is just wrenched.
Yeah.
And she said, Terry, don't you do anything. I mean, I wasn't saying that I wanted to do anything, but she said, if you do anything, I'm going to be really mad at you. Even though you're dead, I'm going to be really mad at you.
There you go.
She said, and I'll never forgive you for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I know, like I said, I didn't think about it, but I thought, wow. I
Yeah.
mean, what a thing to say to somebody, because
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, look at how you're going to affect my life. Okay, you're going to take your life, but then I'm going to, then I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to miss you for one thing. But then, and because all these people, like his friends, like this guy who threw this party, his friends are like, why don't we say something? Why don't we do something? And
Yeah.
for the rest of their lives now, they feel guilty, and with children too.
Yeah,
With the
that's a
thing
whole
with
different-
kids,
yeah,
like when
yeah.
the parent takes their life, it is devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we were talking
sure.
about.
Yeah. The thing about the grief that is left for the loved ones, right? Friends and family and people that are around that person. It's something that never kind of goes away, right? It always stays with them. In adults, right? So I've lost people that are close to me due to suicide as well, and it's always stays with me, right? I can't imagine that their kids, right? I can't imagine their wife, kind of like the grief that they go through, and then growing up with that, kind of, it's just the trauma and the things emotions that are felt their whole life,
Yeah.
because it's not just something that, all right, in a year, 2 years, 5 years, they'll kind of be better. They may be in a better position, right? Because life continues, but that stays with them. That grief kind of stays with them forever.
And then I know, and you hear kids say, "Oh, but I was a bad boy. That's why Daddy did it, or that's why
Blaming
Mommy did
themselves,
it. It's my
right?
fault. It's
Yeah.
it's all my fault. If I wouldn't have done this, or if I wouldn't have, if I would have been
A
a
better
better boy,
boy.
and I would,
Yeah.
and if I wouldn't have picked on my sister so much or whatever, and it's like, and I don't know. Is there a statistic if a parent commits suicide, does the children do they have a higher chance of suicide?
I think there is. I am not 100% on
I was just thinking
on
about
but
that.
I think there is. There's a higher chance that the children have at least that leniency, right? That suicide ideation leniency towards that, because they lived it, right? They kind of seen it, unfortunately, so it stays with them.
Yeah.
And then the feeling guilty part, that stays with them forever, like I was saying. Not only the grief that you feel from somebody passing, but also the guilt that comes with that, like you were saying. So all of that compounded,
Yeah.
it's tremendous.
Sad. Yeah.
And there's a statistic from the excuse me, from the SAMHSA, that for every suicide, there's over 100 people affected, whether that's
that.
immediate family, whether that's coworkers, whether that's community. So for every suicide, there's over 100 people around them that are affected in some way. I can't imagine those directly affected,
Yeah.
right? So it all takes a toll on everybody.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, when you think of all the people that you come in contact with every day,
Exactly.
that it's just, it is pretty sad. So, what is one protective factor shown to reduce suicide among veterans?
So one protective factor that the VA and everybody's kind of putting a lot of girth behind is firearm safety, right? Firearm and prescription safety. So the VA, and you can go to any VA, and they'll give you gun locks. They'll give you as many as you want, so you can do proper gun safety. Because unfortunately, it's about 70% of veterans take their life through firearms. That's the number one cause of suicide for veterans. So providing that protection is something that they put a lot of money into, and distributing gun locks is their main thing. And then they're also doing prescription locks. So it's like these little boxes that you can put your prescriptions in, and it locks up, and then you usually give your keys to a loved one or somebody that will keep it safe, a neighbor or whoever it is that you feel could keep those safe. Especially if you're going through a crisis, right? If somebody around you notices that, hey, you're going through something, let's secure these firearms, let's secure these prescriptions to make sure that they're not quick access, right? So creating that time between the thought of suicide and the action plays a crucial role, right? Because then that person can have an intervention, right? Can have somebody step in and say, hey, let's have a conversation. Or they can reach one of those numbers that we were talking about earlier, right? So creating that time between the thought and the action can be life-saving. Yeah, so those are definitely, factors that are being put out there. And then family support is another one, huge. Knowing that you're not alone, knowing that people care about you, knowing that if you do die from suicide, all of these people are going to be left with grief and guilt and all these other things. So that plays a role. With my background, and I'm sure with your background and your listeners, religion is another huge one, right? Yes. People that in our belief, if you die from suicide, then that means you don't go to heaven, or you can't be saved, like all these other things in between, right? So that also plays a role, right? So that's why connecting with your clergy, right, connecting with your pastor, can be a protective factor for sure. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah. A strong social connection.
Yes.
And community support is like they know that they have somebody that they can turn to.
Exactly.
I would think. Yeah, that's great. But the firearms and that's great. Okay, and the local community. How can the local community help with this topic here?
Well, and our mission, right? Our mission is to empower the community. To create more supports around the veteran that may be going through crisis, right? Because the more people that notice someone's going through crisis, and the more people can step in and have a conversation, the better, right? So empowering them by this training, empowering by educating them on the resources. And then something I do and my coworkers and my co-directors do throughout the state is creating a network. Right. So if a new organization comes to us and says, "Hey, we want to be part of your network," we bring them in, we give them the training, but we also introduce them to all our other organizations. Right. You say, "Hey, there's a veteran meeting going on next week. You might want to come to and meet all these other organizations, so we can all support each other." Right. Hey, you provide financial services. This organization provides mental health services. Connect. And start referring people back and forth, right?
Great.
So creating that network in the community also plays a role. So that's definitely what we want to do, and anyone that comes and joins our program. Our program is free. There's no charge. Everything we provide, training, materials, it's all provided. So anybody that joins our program and even takes our training, we bring them into that network, right? So they don't feel isolated or like it's by themselves or anything like that. Like, hey, we're part of this veteran community, and now we can provide assistance not only in one aspect, right? Because a lot of times, like you were saying before, a financial crisis can turn into a mental health crisis, which can turn into suicide ideation, right? So having more than one resource, more than one assistance organization, it plays a role.
Can make a difference, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because they had the round table here, about a month or so ago.
Yes, so I was part of it. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it was great because they had somebody from the homeless that worked for homeless. I know I'm going to have him on in a couple of weeks
Great, yeah.
to talk, which is good. And then Dan talked about the Kidney Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of the burn pit, people are having, medical
All
issues.
these medical problems,
Yeah,
exactly.
from that. But he has a foundation that people can talk to, and they can help them.
Yeah.
Try to find some, on the medical issues, address their medical issues.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and
if we create this network of organizations to support our veterans, then the better it is for everybody, really.
because they know they can turn to somebody.
Exactly.
They know that there are people out there who care and can help them with whatever these heavy issues that they're going through.
Yep.
So it's wonderful. I know Brevard County is great.
It is. It
It's-
is. On that, there's a lot of veteran organizations. There's a big veteran community out here.
Mm-hmm.
The last numbers I saw was about 72,000 registered veterans in the county.
Was there? Yeah, I heard
So-
between 60 and 70. But
60 and
yeah,
70?
but you
Yeah.
you know more than I do.
Yeah, so this was about a year or so ago. But yeah, and it's growing.
Yeah.
And it's growing. I know Palm Bay area. There's a lot of developments coming up, and a lot of veterans like to move and retire here. So
Yeah.
those numbers are probably just going to go up.
Yeah, yeah, which is good that they're coming here, but yeah, at the higher rate. Another
Exactly.
thing too, we were talking about women, about the
Yeah,
ratio
female veterans. Yeah.
between men and women, the suicide rate.
Yeah, yeah. So unfortunately, female veterans their rate of suicide is going up. In 2022. So this is the federal report that we were talking about earlier. The federal Department of VA. They reported there was about 12%. Out of all the numbers, there was about 12% female veterans that died from suicide. This year's report, there was 14%. It was like 13.8 or 13.9 or something like that. So it's going up, and that's alarming.
Yeah.
That's the alarming part, because female veterans, there's not a lot of them, which means that everyone we lose plays a crucial role, right? So them having 14% of the 6,400 across the country, that's a lot, So and we got to do something about it. What is that? I'm not exactly sure, but now that the numbers are going up, hopefully the VA can take notice and actually, put some bureaucracy aside and hopefully step in and provide them. Because as we know, female veterans especially go through the same thing that male veterans go through now, whether it's combat operations or whatever it is. And then when they come home, they may not get the same resources, unfortunately.
As
So
the men? Oh, really?
yeah, because they say, oh, well, you're a female, so you need maybe a different care or something like that. So some organizations don't provide them the same resources. So a lot of that does hopefully change soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, are there? Do they have resources for them? Even though if they say they're different, okay, are they there? That they're like, okay, well, if the women need different resources than men, are there resources out there for the women?
There are, for
Okay,
sure.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
there are, but so if there's a lot of organizations that provide like some retreats, for example, right? Retreats for mental health, right? So if veterans are suffering from PTSD or related issues or something like that, there's organizations out there that provide retreats for them, whether it's a 3 or 5 day kind of like retreat. And it helps because you're around veterans, you're around the same people, right, that you were in the service. So you connect with them, you have maybe a breakthrough while you're out there and things like that. Because it's all male, sometimes, there's not as many females. So they may have to either wait or be referred to another thing, or they may not be able to go on these retreats. So this is just an example. So things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they need to work on that.
For sure. For sure.
They definitely
Yeah.
need to work on that. And I mean,
Yeah.
and if you have a retreat, well, the retreats sometimes aren't for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Well, in that time, a lot of other issues can come up and it can worsen. So they need to do something so that they can go right away and talk to people. And the retreats are great. I'm not saying they're not, but in the meantime, what do you do?
Yeah.
So,
But there are organizations out there now, especially now. There's an organization out of the Veterans Memorial Center in Merritt
Yeah.
Island
Yeah, that's cool.
that
I love that place.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
They have a lot of resources there, but there's one organization there. It's called their Voices of Hope, that is specifically for female veterans.
Okay.
You know, they do yoga, they do fishing, they do. We do training with them as well every now and
Okay.
then. So things like that, and they do specifically female veterans.
Okay. The
You
Voices
know,
of Hope.
Their Voices of Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
good
it's
to
great.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and and then they can while they're out there they talk. Women talk. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Exactly.
that's a good thing, I guess. Good about
Yeah.
men. It's not always good for
Yeah,
that we talk so
exactly.
much,
Yeah,
but for women, I mean, we will
Yeah.
talk. We
Yeah.
will talk about our issues a lot more than men.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And women,
and so-
relate to other women, and female veterans
Right.
are no different, right? Relate to other female veterans, and
Right.
have a more open conversations.
Right.
When it's all female veterans together.
Right.
Right.
When you're in the same gender, right? Yeah, you can kind of open up a little bit more
Exactly.
than if you're co-ed.
Yeah.
So that's good. And so Veterans Safe Place. I have that written down. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
Veterans
So
Safe
our,
Place?
our programs, we have two programs. The first one being the Watchstander program, and that's for individuals. Anybody can go to our website and take our training, and it's only about 30 minutes. All you need is your email address.
Okay.
And you can just take it. It's strictly informational. There's no quiz, there's no test, and you get a certificate at the end of it saying thank you for participating, thank you for learning, and then hopefully you can pass it along to somebody else that needs it, right?
Okay.
And then our second program is our Veterans Safe Place program. That's the one with organizations. So if an organization emails me or contacts us and says, "Hey, I want to become a Veteran Safe Place," we set up a date and time with that organization to go in and do the training in person.
Okay.
It's about 45 minutes because I'm a little long-winded. But we talk, and then we provide the training, and then we provide them a certificate that they have become a Veteran Safe Place, meaning they understand veteran issues, they want to help veterans, and they welcome veterans to their organization.
Okay.
Right, so that's the Veteran Safe Place program. So those are our two programs that we offer.
Okay. And what is when you go online? What is the training? Like if somebody just wants to go online for the information, what is that?
It's thefirewatch.org.
Okay.
So that's our website, thefirewatch.org. Go under programs, and you can hit Watchstander,
Okay.
and you can start right there.
Okay. And you press what? I'm sorry. What was the name of it?
Watchstander.
Watch Standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Watchstander is our individual program. So everybody that takes our program, we call them Watchstanders
Okay.
because they're standing watch for the veterans in their community.
Okay.
Right? So that's what we're called, the Fire Watch. So we didn't really get into the name, but the Fire Watch is a military term. And if you haven't, your veterans in your audience, they should kind of understand. So when you're anywhere, whether you're in boot camp or in theater or deployed, wherever, somebody has to stand watch for everybody else.
Right.
Meaning while everybody's resting or sleeping, somebody has to be accountable and stay up, right?
Right.
That's called Fire Watch.
Okay.
So somebody has to stand Fire Watch while you're in. So we took that, and we want people to stand watch in the community for our veterans, right?
Nice.
So if we have somebody standing watch, providing support, providing resources, having talks, everything we've talked about earlier, then that makes a difference. And that's what we want in the community. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good because if somebody knows somebody, then they could, go online and take the training.
Yeah.
And so that they can know how to better approach the person.
Exactly. And it's for everybody.
Yeah,
That
right.
you don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be a military member. You don't have to be, if you support veterans, if you say thank you for your service, this is a way to actually take action and say thank you for your service for sure. Anybody can take it. And I'll share a quick story with you. When I first started 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, I did a training with an organization down south. And the lady that was my connection, she came up to me at the training and she said, "You know what? When we met, because we met at an event a couple of days earlier, she said, when we met, I got your card and I it was a Sunday. I just took your training myself. And the next day, on that Monday, she got a call from one of her husband's friends that lives out of state and was going through a crisis.
Wow.
And she used our program, right, and our guideline to talk to him, understand what he was coming from, connect with him, and then lead him to a resource that helped him. So that played a huge role. That's why she called me back the next day and was like, everybody in my organization needs to take this training, and she set it up, and I ended up training about 100 people in her organization. So that it doesn't matter who you are, or if you feel like, I'm not a veteran, I don't really need this, or I'm not in the veteran community. It's for everybody across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure too, I know it's not, it is for vets, but just in general too. I mean, it's great that it's for vets, but there's still so many principles that you can use in your daily life. You know, noticing friends or noticing people, and how to deal. But it's wonderful. This is a wonderful program that you have, because I know there's people who are just at their wits' end, and they just feel that's the alternative. But don't do it. Reach out.
Exactly.
Because the bravest thing you can do, this. So I have just a couple quotes. The bravest thing you can do is to ask for help.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
a lot of
people love you. There's a
yeah.
lot of people that love you out there, and they want to help you, and they'll miss you. Don't do it.
Exactly.
Just call.
Life is
Talk.
precious, and I've always looked at suicide as going against our nature, right? Because even basic instinct is to survive, right? So suicide is against our nature, kind of thing. And unfortunately, if you feel like this is your only way out, it's a permanent solution, like I said earlier, to a temporary problem. So if you can find support around you that can hopefully guide you through that crisis time and get you to the other side, then that's what we want, right? Have that support, have that connection. So that's why I do this. That's why, thank you for this platform to put it out there, and hopefully more people kind of our awareness and create our community watch standards, which is what we want. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's wonderful. I know when I heard you talk, when I heard you talk, I was like, I got to have him on the show. I was like, I got to have him on the show because we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
We can't pussyfoot around.
Yeah.
This is a serious subject, and it needs to be addressed. So,
For sure.
Thank you so much for being here. And too, we were saying about what you can do in the community.
Yeah.
Also is support. There's parades and
support our veteran community for sure. If you see a parade, if you see a veteran gathering, we have the wall that comes, the Vietnam Memorial Wall that comes every April, I want to say, at Wickham Park, in the county.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about it. It would be great for more individuals to come out and show support. There's a thing for that, and it's free. So also if you see, a veteran, say thank you and for what they're doing and for what they've done, because they're paving the way for everybody else, right? Yeah. And if you're interested in our program, please reach out.
Sure.
So phone number is 407-796-8089.
Okay.
So feel free to text or call. And my email is hangulo@thefirewatch.org. So please feel free to reach out if you're interested in any of our programs, or if you have any veteran questions, right? Because like I said before, I'm a veteran myself, and I'm a veteran advocate first of all, for all my fellow brothers and sisters, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, we'll have the information. That'll be on the screen, and at the end also we'll have the different support systems for our veterans too. And then what's your story too? It's like to ask them, what's your story? Because now they want to talk about it. Some of the older guys, like when they came back from World War II, it was like they didn't really want to talk about it. They they didn't feel like they were heroes.
Exactly.
They just like, hey, I served my country, and so I served my country proudly.
Yeah.
Okay, so they really didn't talk about it, but now, they do want to talk about it, which they should.
Yeah,
They should.
Yeah,
which is
and
pretty
ask,
cool.
and listen. That's the best thing we could do, is just listen You know, listen and say thank you for what they've done and sacrificed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they also have the honor flight too, which is pretty cool.
Yes, the
That is
honor flights
great.
are coming out of Melbourne now, so
Yeah,
that's great.
I went to one as they were coming off the plane.
Excellent.
And
Good.
there was thousands of people there.
That's
I was
great.
like, the
That's
the
great.
runway that they came on. There was like layers of people
Yeah.
too, and I was at the beginning, and then when it, at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, it was like as far as the eye could see.
Yeah.
There were thousands of people there,
That's
and they had
great.
ladies singing, military, singing military songs, and they had the service dogs, and they had all kinds of cool stuff.
Very
but
nice.
but it was just so great. Had flags, we were waving flags, and we had signs and everything. So
Nice.
we should honor our vets.
No, for sure.
So yeah.
That's great to show that support out
Yeah.
there. So if,
Yeah, it was
if
pretty
anybody
cool.
has time and wants to go out there, for sure, they can definitely do that.
Yeah, I think they're doing that more often. They were coming in out of Orlando, but now some of the flights are coming into Melbourne,
yeah.
which is nice because I think they have a nice breakfast
Yeah.
for them in the morning. They leave at like 6 in the morning, and then when they come back, it was like, I think they came in around 10 o'clock or 10:30. We don't mind waiting. It was supposed to be 9, but we didn't care.
Yeah.
We were having fun.
Nice.
We were
That's
we were
great.
having a good time. Yeah. So we did answer the trivia question that how many suicides of military personnel active and veterans are in Florida, and it's 600. But in the nation, it's 64.
It's about 6,400,
yeah. And Brevard County was 30.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, those are the numbers we're looking at, and it's going to take the community to hopefully address those numbers and bring them down.
yeah, that's wonderful. And then I have a quote. I can never decide what quote to say, so I have two quotes. Your story isn't finished yet. There is more strength in you that you know or have had the chance to see. And this one was tough love. This next one. You've walked through the fire and kept moving. Don't pretend you're made of smoke now. Stand up, breathe deep, and claim the life that you fought so hard to come home to.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. I
But,
really like
yeah.
this. Thank
Well, Henry, I'm just so happy that you could come here and and talk about your organization, and and please, if anybody has any suicidal ideations, just reach out to somebody. And there's numbers, there's plenty of people that you can call and talk to, and So you just never know what's waiting around the corner. You might be going through a hard time now, but you don't know what's waiting around the corner. Something good, really good could happen to you. So hang in there, okay? And reach out. So I look forward to our next episode of Time with Terry. And just a reminder, reach out to somebody and be a blessing, and you'll be blessed too. Bye.